Oh, hey there everybody. Zach here, you know the rest. So, I've been asked a lot by fellow engines, what is my backstory? And that's quite an interesting one, because let me tell you, it's a long story. One I'm not sure I'm prepared to tell. You want to anyway, who cares, am I right? That's why you clicked on the video, probably. Anyway, so, where do we begin? Yeah, the beginning. Sounds good to me. I was built in 1909 as the prototype of the P-Class to the design of a Mr. Harry Wainwright. There were 8 of us in total. I was most closest to my twin sister, Bluebell. I began my early years on trial as a shunter at Ashford Works. I did enjoy the work, but it was incredibly tiresome, let me tell you that. 1912 soon came and I got my first proper job as a shunter at Southampton Docks. In 1922, I was moved to Eastleigh under the Grouping Act. Yep, once again, I was back to shunting in workshops. And also did some work as a station pilot when the other shunters were busy. It was also here I'd make a very, very good friend, but that's a story for another time. But I'm afraid all good things come to an end. You see, I was here for about 17 years, and if you can do the maths, 1922, 17 years in the future, that's 1939. And if you know your history, yeah, World War II broke out. I was debated over whether I'd stay at Eastleigh or be sent abroad, like one of my other siblings. The latter was decided. I was sent off to France. I was sent off working at a small little dock called Boulogne. Time here was uneventful. I mean, yes, except for one instant in 1944. The Luftwaffe struck. The sirens rung out very quickly, planes hovering overhead. It was a very dark evening. I just finished my shift when the sirens came out, but I realised something even worse. Yeah, I know, an air raid's bad on its own, but what when there's gunpowder vans right next to you? Selflessly, I reacted in quite a heroic yet foolish way. I raced out of the harbour. I got the vans quite far away before sending them away and racing back to the docks. I backed back into my siding, and there was a massive explosion. "1945 came and I soon came back to Eastleigh where I was given a hero's welcome and a massive credit from a couple of good friends. However, all good things come to an end, as I said. Next thing I knew, I was off to Fratton. My time at Fratton was rather short. You see, it was very uneventful, literally, there was just nothing going on, really. I know it sounds like lazy writing, but it was true. The only thing I'd see on the odd occasion, which was quite interesting, was a terrier by the name of Stepney, yes, that very same one, coming down from the Hailing Billy line. Apart from that, I'd see the express trains roll by, and yeah, you get the idea. It was an okay time. In 1952, I got another job as a work shunter, this time at Brighton. I acted as a station pilot, but apart from that, it was the same as Fratton, really. However, I was reunited with an old acquaintance from an earlier working day. 1969 came very, very quickly. I know, 17 years may seem like a long time, but by golly, it went by quickly. And before I knew it, steam locomotives were disappearing and diesels were popping out like rabbits. And my time came in 1969. I was one of the last working engines of my age. At this time I was 60 years old, which was fairly old for most steam engines. I was withdrawn. I just laid in a cold siding for 3 years. Of course, the yard foreman of the scrapyard would come up and say that my time will be soon, but that was never the case. I just wanted it to be over, like a wretched feeling to get out of my system. But it just never happened. However, luck was still on my side. One day, the foreman came to me on a cold December evening of 1972. I'd been sneered at by diesels for the past 3 years, and I thought to myself, is this finally my time? Will I be out of my misery? The answer was no. Duh. I was purchased by the Bluebell Railway, and soon was overhauled. And just like Stepney, a few years before me, I set out of Brighton, like him from Eastleigh, with a couple of coaches, and set out for the Bluebell under my own steam. Here, I was reunited with two of my siblings, Bluebell and Primrose. I loved my time on the Bluebell, and even visited quite a few heritage railways in my time, including the Mid-Hants Railway, the South Devon and the Great Central. However, in 2007, the Bluebell Railway didn't have the money to pay for my overhaul. I was very, very worried, as I thought I'd be retired. I didn't want to be. I was still only 98 at this time, and I know that's quite old, but I was still very stubborn and didn't want to give up working. However, an opportunity soon arose for me. The yard owner, or yard foreman, told me that he had found someone to give me an overhaul on the North Western Railway by the name of Sir Topham Hatt. I was overjoyed with this, but he told me there was a downside to it. He told me the only reason that the Fat Controller was willing to pay for the overhaul was because he needed a new engine, and so he told me that he had let me go and that I would be joining the NWR. I didn't mind this, but I was still quite saddened. Sure enough, the Fat Controller was good to his word, and I was reset out on duty. My time on the NWR was good. Very, very good, you might say. I had a few mishaps in my time of my early years, but it went very, very well. One day, however, a man came up to me with the current Fat Controller at the time, the man on the right. He told me that the man on the left was Andrew McLean, the curator of the National Railway Museum. I was pleased to make his acquaintance and a little starstruck, you might say. However, he told me that he was willing to have me as part of the National Collection. I was quite impressed by this, as no one had ever considered me for anything. I mean, preservation came at the last minute, literally. But this was something different. He told me that this was just an opportunity for me to, have a calmer life. I was up to it, as now at this time it was 2010, and I was 101 years old. He told me that I would still work on Sodor, but not quite for the whole year. In September, I would make my way to the NRM and be there, pulling demonstration trains or doing some shunting. I was quite overcame by this, but I was certainly up for the challenge. And so, every summer, I would set out, at the end of every summer, it was September, silly me, I would set out with my train called the Yorkshire Flyer. I would depart Knapford, and every time I'd arrive, every single year, I was greeted warmly by Flying Scotsman, Green Arrow and Mallard. These arrangements were kept every single year, literally. I mean, the operation's only been going for 10 years so far. It will be 11 in September. But I suppose things won't be overly bad. I mean, things definitely could be worse, but I just consider myself lucky. Sometimes I have lows in my life, but I'm 121 years old, so you know, things could be worse right now. Thanks for watching, everybody. And I'll see you all very, very soon.